Perspectives, public affairs, news, and interviews of, by, and for the LGBTQ community with your host, Pam Daniels.
December 4th, 2024, the United States Supreme Court will hear opening arguments about a Tennessee law that bans necessary medical care for transgender children. About 25 other states have enacted similar laws. Transgender advocacy groups argue that banning long-standing medically needed health care for minors violates the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. Beyond that, anyone diagnosed as someone suffering from gender dysphoria, a recognized medical condition, has absolute privacy rights under the Health Information Portability and Accountability Act. All transgender persons have a right to privacy, and no one other than a medical professional in a school who is required by law to protect a patient's privacy might need to be aware of a transgender youth's diagnosis. To discuss this further with me are two dear friends and longtime advocates for women's reproductive rights as well as transgender rights. With us now on Perspectives, I have the first female governor of the great Garden State of New Jersey, former Governor Christine Todd Whitman. Welcome aboard.
Good to be with you.
And former mayor of Houston, Texas, and now for how many years, Anise?
7 years leading LGBTQ plus Victory Fund and Victory Institute.
That's right. And by way of full disclosure, I served on Governor Whitman's staff 30 years ago.
Right.
And I first met you, Anise, at a Victory Institute gathering in Manhattan 5 years ago. And the work that both of you have done, by the way, for the trans community, verbally and politically, is so critical. And by the way, the only way people like me could come out was if we were independently wealthy, because you couldn't change your birth certificate, forget your driver's license. You could change your name legally, but your driver's license and birth certificate will still have the wrong gender. And thank you, Governor, because you helped me line up almost a third of the Republicans in the state legislature to pass what is now Babs-Sipperstein's law, where transgender people can with their doctor, a licensed medical professional, download a single page and fill it out and send it in to Health and Human Services, state level, and bam, the birth certificate is changed. And you can even, if you've already done the legal name change, get that done with the same form. But there's so many states that are so backward, which is what I want to get to right now before we go any further. And that is this U.S. versus Scrimeti. Anise, how familiar are you with this case as an activist?
And not particularly familiar. You know, Victory, we don't do policy, we don't do any litigation. We put leaders into office, and we focus there. But I want to digress for just a second. Even in those states where you have longstanding policies that allow changes to birth certificates, gender marker transitions, those can be unwound, because that's what's happening in Texas right now. And
so Texas is in this too.
What are they doing?
The Attorney General, Ken Paxton, has said that he's put a freeze on any changes to gender markers in any kind of legal documents. And yes.
How did you go about it before he put the freeze?
Oh, I mean, as discussed, there are some states that require doctor certification that there has been some sort of a surgical intervention, and then other states it's simply a self-declaration. Texas was a little bit more on the conservative end, but we've been doing changes to gender markers for years, and this is a huge reversal.
And Governor, I'll let you tell the story, but you co-signed a document with your predecessor as governor, and that did a lot to get Babs-Cipperstein's law
Well, I
done.
mean, that's the way you get things done, frankly, is in a bipartisan way. And for us, I think for both of us, it was something that this is how you treat people. And this is how you let people determine who and what they are. They control their own lives. And that's what you want to have happen, is have people control their own lives and be able to make their own decisions. And I feel very strongly about that. I really worry about this incoming administration. I don't think it's going to be particularly friendly to that attitude.
Yeah. Goal number one, we've got to take back the House. And not with 4 or 5 seats, with 25 to 35 seats, so that we can make
Actually,
sure.
you don't need that. You don't need that. And that's
Okay.
that's what we're working on in Forward. And I think that's the way we go with this whole issue, is it's going to have to start happening at the states, and you bring those candidates along. But all you need is a few. You don't need it. They're close enough, both houses, that it doesn't take that many. Give them 5. 5 in the House can make a huge difference.
I agree with the governor on that, absolutely, and of course, I mean, victory is nonpartisan. We focus on the people. I will tell you that it is out LGBTQ plus Republicans are almost an endangered species. They're actually almost extinct. They are already an endangered species. We had 477 candidates this year. We had 1 Republican. We lost a number of Republican state representatives, gay Republican state representatives in the primaries. They got deliberately primaried. So this is, our challenge at Victory is that we have always been a pro-choice organization, because we believe that body autonomy matters to someone who's trans, body autonomy matters to someone who is gay and lesbian, body autonomy matters to women, and that it's all interrelated. And as the Republican primary process has become so antithetical to that position, it's been harder and harder to find candidates on the
Governor,
right to get there.
How is it going with the Forward Party? I don't know if you're aware of this, Anise, but the governor, along with Andrew Yang, they've organized.
I'm on their email list. I met Andrew Yang. I met dinner with Andrew Yang. I'm on the,
well, we did very well. We did very well in this. Actually, we're up to 69 now, elected officials who are either being sworn in or they're already in office. We have a U.S. senator. We have a congressman. We're about to get the mayor. Senator? From Utah, Hawaii. They have all different, ways of trying to keep third parties from getting any traction, but we've managed to get it. And we have people like a Supreme Court justice in Washington State. Well, that's what you want. You want to start getting people in those kinds of positions that when these cases come up at the local level, they can start building the legal framework for carrying them forward. You want to elect people to the state legislatures who are people who feel that way, who can start to make some of the changes that are needed at the state level and the local level, county commissioners, people like that. So we did very well. We even had a woman who was running against a Moms for Liberty for the school board down in North Carolina, and she won, which was not that easy to do in North Carolina, but she was a forwardist, and that helped her. So that's why I feel so firmly we don't want to get sucked into, you can't make a difference if you don't have everybody. It's not that. It's just a few start out. I mean, you want to grow it, obviously, but you don't have to have everybody to start making a difference.
I know that there's a narrative out there that trans issues had a huge impact in the election, and it's simply not true. Even the major news networks, as people were walking out of the polling places, what's the number one issue? Economy,
right.
Immigration, maybe crime, and then it was economy. But there were millions of dollars spent on anti-trans ads at the same time as Sarah McBride, huge win, decisive win, cleared the primary, and beat a Republican opponent. She's a Democrat now in the House from Delaware. But victory among our more than 470 candidates. We had 35 trans and non-binary candidates, most of whom were successful. And so it's this strange thing where there's all this rhetoric at the top, but where people are actually voting on races that they're familiar with, on people that they know, trans and non-binary candidates did very, very well.
And also, getting back to the court case that the Supreme Court case that's going to be opening arguments on December the 4th, unlike lesbian, gay, bisexual, anybody else in the LGBTQ group, we actually suffer a medical condition. It's called gender dysphoria, and you get diagnosed. And one of the things that bothers me, well, I understood because I've read up on it. Yes, the 14th Amendment Equal Protection Clause, I get that. But we have under HIPAA privacy rights, and they're talking about banning these school children from getting the medical attention that they need. And oh, by the way, it's nobody's business, period. I mean, the only person in a school with any maybe need to know would be a school nurse or medical professional, and they're bound by the privacy rules. What do both of you have to say about that?
Well, there's a lot of understanding that adults should not be be told what they can or can't do. But I think that there's a more nuanced conversation around kids, and who should be in that conversation: the parents, the doctors, not our legislators. But
especially not politicians.
But if you look at the ads that came out, it was all about no boys in girls' sports,
which can't happen. I mean, it literally can't happen to the degree they're talking about.
But again, who should be having those conversations? Who should be making those decisions? Right. The governing bodies of competitive sports should decide what is fair and appropriate, not legislators who have no real legal understanding, no medical understanding, no personal understanding of these issues. But we do ourselves a disservice, I think, when we try to say, well, we can't talk about this, or we can't, it's all off limits. People don't understand trans issues to the extent that they should. And until they do, we have to have more open conversations and more nuanced conversations. And let folks on the left saying this is non-negotiable, we can't talk about it, and folks on the right are on the attack, and we've got to figure out a way to navigate that because people's lives are at stake, and their mental health is at stake.
Your thoughts?
Well, I would agree with that. I mean, it is a very nuanced issue, and it's a hard issue to get around. It's a little bit like the abortion discussion with kids. Should they be, if they can't get an aspirin? I mean, I remember this from when I did the partial birth abortion thing. If they have to go to the school nurse to get an aspirin, can you really, should they be able to get an abortion pill or a anything without the parent? Morning after pill. That's it. Without their parent.
And Governor, it's nice to meet you, at least virtually.
It's very nice to meet you as well. And, you have this conversation. We may not agree on everything that each of us is trying to accomplish, but we can have this conversation and we can move some things forward. And you as mayor know the thing about elective office, at least executive branch, is you got to get things done. You got to make things happen. You can't just think wonderful thoughts up there in the stratosphere and hope. You've actually got to deliver, and that puts some pressure on people who weren't really ready for that.
Well, time's up for this episode of Perspectives. Thanks for watching. Please share my blog, The Optimist, and LGBTQ+ public affairs program Perspectives here on progresswithpam.com. Bonne chance et porte-toi bien. Buena suerte y estar bien. Good luck and be well.